Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about the first method in adding and subtracting vectors, okay? Basically, we use this method when the vector components are known, all right? So please make sure you review previous video, okay? Because in this series here, we're going to talk about 3 methods. So it's very important that you make sure you review previous video before you proceed. All right. Before I proceed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you've not clicked the notification button, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please do so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first person to know. All right. So we use this method when the component, the x and y component of that vectors are known. All right. And there are 3 rules to do this. Because I know students to take note, I'm going to write what I'm saying, but just quickly is that the first thing you have to do is that you have to express the vectors in terms of the component. So you have to express in terms of x and y if it's a 2 component, or x, y, and z if it's a 3 component. Then you add the components together. So you add respective x components together, or you subtract the respective x components together. Then you simplify, okay? All right, so I'm going to write this down so that you can take note. So this method is used, okay? When the components x, y, or z are known, okay? So if it's a 2 component, it's going to be x and y. If it's a 3 component, it's going to be x, y, and z, okay? So now we have 3 rules for doing this. Okay? We have 3 rules, or you can write 3 steps. So the first thing you have to do is to express the vectors in terms of the component, because in this case, the components are known. So with the appropriate coordinate system, so you can use the column vector, so you can use just a bracket form, anyone is fine. So you have to what? Express the vectors in terms of components. Using the appropriate coordinate system. So usually, if it's x and y, it's for 2 components. So if it's x and y, we're talking about 2 components here. Or if it's x, y, z. Okay, we're talking about 3 components. Okay. Okay. So, but you should know that there are other higher dimensionality, and it's also possible. But in this case, I'm going to restrict myself to just the 2 components and the 3 components. So, for example, the 2 components, you can have something like u is equal to maybe something like 2 and 3, okay? While for a 3 component, you could have something like v, okay? And the vector could be represented as 3, 5, and 2. So you can see we have the x and we have the y. So that means the 2 is the x, the 3 is the y, while here the 3 is the x, the 5 is the y, and the 2 is the z. Okay? All right, so that is the first step. So you have to write it in the component form. Then number 2, you have to then add the vectors. We simply add the vectors in order in which they have the corresponding coordinate, okay? So that means you add the vectors by adding the x's together, or you subtract adding the y's together. And if it's a 3-component, you add the x's together, the y's together, and the z's together. All right? So that's step 2. So number 2. So you add vectors, okay? So if you add it, we simply add their components. So we simply add their components in order with their corresponding coordinates. Okay? So let's pick an example. If, for instance, we have something like that, let's say we have U, we have 2, 3, okay? And we have V, we have it as 4, 5. So remember that you can only add, usually you add those that have corresponding dimensions or corresponding dimensionality. So we have U plus V will be equal to, in the last one, I told you this is the X, so 2 the X, and this is the Y. Now this is the X and this is the Y. So it's the same thing we're gonna do. So we add the X's together. It's gonna give us 2 plus 4. And we're gonna have 3 plus 5. And that will now give you, when you add that together, it's gonna give us what? 6 and 8. All right? Now, but to subtract the vectors is exactly the same thing. But in this case now, instead of you adding, you're gonna subtract. So number 3, to subtract vectors, we simply subtract their components. In order with their corresponding coordinates. Okay. So for example, we could have U, we can have 2, 3. Maybe I can use the red pen here just to be consistent. So for example, U, we could have 2, 3, same example. And we had V to be 4, 5. So this is a 2-dimensional, okay? And now we are now having U minus what? V, okay? So like I said, this is the X, this is the Y. Now this is the X and this is the Y. Is that okay? So then we can now have, we're gonna subtract the S components. It's gonna be 2 minus 4 and 3 minus 5. And this is going to give us minus 2. And 3 minus 5 is going to also give us minus 2. And that will be the answer for that, okay? So those are the 3 steps on how to do it. So basically you write it in the column form, or depend any form you want. So you make sure you add each of the respective component to X component to X component, Y component to Y component, and Z component to Z component. All right, so let me just pick one example for this, then I'll move on to the next one. So let's say we have this. So let's say we have, you are told if A we're told if A is equal to 5, 3, and 4, and B is equal to 1, 2, and 3. We're told to find, we have A plus B, and we have B minus A, all right? So we are told to find these ones, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide the screen into two. So we're going to start with the first one, A plus B, okay? So we're going to have A, we know A is equal to what? 5, 3, and 4 plus B, which is going to give us 1, 2, and 3. And this is going to give us what? 5 plus 1, 3 plus 2, and 4 plus what? 3, okay? While if it's A minus B, the second one, is going to give us, sorry, it's B minus A, right? So it's B minus A is going to give us, the B is going to be 1, 2, 3. The A is going to be 5, 3, 4. Then we're going to have 1 minus 5, 2 minus 3, and 3 minus what? 4. Okay. Then we then simplify this. So for the first one, for A plus B, 5 plus 1 will give you 6, 3 plus 2 will give you 5, 4 plus 3 will give you what? 7. And that will be the answer for that. For this, it's going to give you 1 minus 5 will give you minus 4, 2 minus 3 will give you minus 1, 3 minus 4 will give you minus 1, and that will be the answer for that. Okay, so that's how you solve it. So it's basically simple. Provided that the components are known, yep, that's how you do it. But the next method now, I'm going to go to the next video, which will be the head to tail method. Some textbook call it triangle method. So it's very important that you subscribe so that and click notification bell so that when I post the next video on the head to tail method, you'll be the first person to know. So if you have any question, please don't hesitate to send me an email or you can put it in the comment section and I'm going to respond to you as soon as I can. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.